This podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to Legend of the Bones. Following in the footsteps of giants, Legend of the Bones is a chimera. A mix of old-school tabletop RPG and dark fantasy storytelling. As its name might suggest, in Legend of the Bones the dice rule. There'll be no rerolls, no fudging the dice, no metacurrency. The roll of the bones will determine the character's destiny, and no one will be spared their fate. None shall escape the destiny of bone. Last time on Legend of the Bones. The companions, with the aid of their guide, Hedrick, finally reached Penmelkine and found that it was built into the mountain itself. Valen, with Talian's help, managed to open the magically sealed entrance, but in doing so, both men received a vision of the Rift, a tear between the physical world and hell. Despite this, the companions were resolved to continue, but Hedrick refused to accompany them, promising instead to wait for them for 3 days. Beyond the entrance, the companions found themselves in a large arched hall, decorated with carved reliefs. Moving into a side chamber, they discovered a room that had been used by Demelza as living quarters, and whereupon they found a diary apparently belonging to her unknown apprentice. In the diary, the apprentice recounted the pair's journey from Angarak, and how Demelza kept an amulet close to her, which Valen surmised was the Eye of Krevik. During their journey, the apprentice became increasingly envious of her mistress, apparently affected by the Hellstone's corruptive influence. Later in the account, Demelza reveals the amulet's true significance and her intent to destroy it. The apprentice became angry and tried to take the Hellstone, but Demelza cast a spell and put her to sleep. When the apprentice awoke, she was free of the envy which had maddened her. She also found that Demelza was gone, having opened a magically sealed portal leading deeper into the dungeon. But in doing so, she had inadvertently closed the entrance, leaving the apprentice trapped. In her final diary entry, the apprentice is resolved to follow Demelza to help her destroy the Hellstone, or, if her mistress has perished, then to finish the task for her. Chapter 60, Part 1, 7 days ago. Steam drifted up in wisps from the rumps and flanks of the horses as the armoured column trotted through the steady downpour. Rain slicked the muscular equine bodies, matting manes and glistening over the leather of damp saddles and reins. The air was laden with the scent of damp earth and sweat, while towering cliffs loomed on either side of the path, their jagged silhouettes slicing into low-hanging clouds. The Dragon's Tooth Pass seemed to cradle the darkening sky, holding it hostage until it bled rain. The men rode without complaint, soaked to the bone, their raiments clinging like second skins. Each held an unwavering conviction to their cause, and to the man that led them. He had ignited something greater than loyalty, a vision of a purified world, stripped of sorcery and sin, a land where magic was scourged, blasphemy was punished, and women kept their place beneath the pious gaze of righteous men. They were no mere men. They were the Brethren, holy warriors chosen by the gods to cleanse the land, to drag the faithless into the light, or purge them with Solon's fire. It was the will of the Nine. At their head rode their leader, alone, head high, unmoved by the rain drumming on his bald crown and training down his face. Reynard's thoughts swirled like the clouds above. His plans were now in motion. The royal court was in chaos. Forged letters spoke of the Queen's infidelity with her bard, a man now condemned by staged evidence of demonic rites. The King's steward, bribed and bent, had levied crushing taxes, fanning noble resentment, and oiling the blade of rebellion. Prince Tristan, his will subverted, had forsaken the crown for a monastery. Even now, as Reynard led the brethren to swell the rebel ranks, Brother Tatwine was exposing High Seer Wayamond for what he was, an adulterer and a hypocrite. The church teetered, the crown bled authority by the day. Rivers of blood would soon follow. And when the desperate masses cried out for salvation, it would be he, Reynard of Harburg, that would answer, the architect of a new world, born from fire. The pass crested a ridge, and as they reached the summit, the rain ceased abruptly. In the distance lay a wide open vale, speckled with farms and woodlands. But directly ahead, by a grey lake, stood their destination, the fortress of Cerro Morthal. With the end in sight, Reynard spurred his mount. The column followed, descending the winding path in tight formation, cloaks streaming behind them like war banners. They passed beneath a weathered stone gatehouse, from which flew the banners of every great southern house, proof that the rebel forces were beginning to gather. Beyond, the courtyard was alive with motion and clamour. Blacksmiths and armourers laboured at their forges, messengers dashed between buildings, and warriors drilled, a garrison not waiting, but preparing. Reynard reined in his horse and surveyed the stronghold. "You there, boy," he called out, spotting a young runner. "A shilling if you find me—" He stopped abruptly, dismissing the youth with a wave of his hand, for in a nearby doorway stood the man he sought, Lord Polmir's steward and his trusted lieutenant, Maelor. He dismounted, handing the reins to one of his men before striding over to his right hand.
"It is good to see you, Reynard,"
Maelor said warmly in greeting, clasping the cleric's arm, though there was something about his facial expression that suggested all was not well. "Have you eat?" Reynard demanded, foregoing the pleasantries. Maelor's smile faded, and he shook his head ever so slightly.
Lemorna's sorcery was too powerful,
he replied, his tone apologetic.
"She escaped with the eye. I lost 2 men.
Reynard cursed, thumping the doorway with a clenched fist.
"Peace, Reynard,"
the steward soothed.
"All is not lost. Come."
Turning, he led Reynard into the building. The space beyond was simple, functional, and consisting of a single chamber. In the front half, a burly guard sat at a table, whittling a piece of wood, while a large hound lay snoring at his feet. He briefly looked up at the pair, but recognising Maelor, returned to his woodcraft. The back half of the room was divided up with iron bars to form half a dozen cells, in which filthy prisoners sat on equally filthy rushes. Maelor approached one cell. Inside, a bruised man in his 30s looked up, eyes dark with defiance.
"This is Cirque, Lemorna's apprentice."
"Cirque," Reynard almost hissed the name. "I am delighted to meet you." Dramatis Personae, Reynard of Harburg. Reynard is a cleric, level 10. He is 42 years old, standing at 5'10" and weighing 170 pounds. His head is bald, but his piercing blue eyes are framed by dark, heavy brows. Reynard was born in Harburg, a trading town in the northern provinces of the Salian Empire. Born into a merchant family, from a young age he was fervently pious, even in a realm steeped in religious devotion. His oddness and intense beliefs made him an outcast among his peers. He was often the target of mockery and violence, returning home bloodied and bruised. On one such occasion, before his 15th summer, Reynard was set upon by a group of youths. Desperate and cornered, he called out to Solon to blind his attackers. In that moment, he heard a voice, warm and fatherly, speak to him, promising power and protection. To his astonishment, a burst of radiance surged from within him. The leader screamed and dropped to his knees, temporarily blind, his eyes flooded with searing light. Though the blindness faded within hours, news of what had transpired spread throughout the community. His parents saw it as a sign from the gods and sent him to the local temple to be instructed in the priesthood. But miracles breed suspicion as often as awe. Jealousy and fear fueled rumours, and whispers spread that Reynard was not chosen by the gods, but touched by sorcery. The injustice of it burned in Reynard's soul, and a desire to distance himself from the accusation transformed disdain for sorcery into hate. Scorned once more, Reynard endured years of isolation until he could bear it no longer. When he came of age, Reynard begged his mentor for a letter of introduction and set out from Harburg, travelling south for many weeks until he reached the holy city of Alcazar and the primacy of the Nine. It was not just a pilgrimage to that great temple, but an opportunity for a new life, studying under the great scholars and theologians of the day. Yet it was here, on the fringes of temple life, that he heard a voice that would shape his destiny. Not divine, but human. Armand of Carcassonne, like Reynard, hailed from the Salian Empire. He was a charismatic preacher and scholar who held clandestine gatherings. There, he delivered searing sermons on the rot within the church, accusing the priesthood of becoming soft, appeasing, and indulgent. He called for a radical and literal reading of the Voxus, the sacred text of Solanus the prophet. He declared the church no longer sought to do the Nine's will. Instead, they had become prone to decadence and inaction. Most dismissed Armand's words as zealotry. Reynard, however, heard only truth, and his soul caught fire. Over the following months, Reynard became Armand's most devoted disciple. He absorbed his doctrine, but more than that, he gave it structure, audience, and purpose. He recruited others, the disillusioned, outsiders, idealists. Where Armand had kindled a flame, Reynard built a furnace. It was he who proposed the founding of a brotherhood, one bound by absolute loyalty and divine mission. One evening, the two men met in a low-ceilinged cellar beneath a forgotten chapel in the lower quarter of Alcazar. As their followers had grown in number, Reynard had found it as a place where Armand's disciples could meet without fear of discovery. The yellow glow of candles flickered against the damp stone walls. Parchments lay scattered across a battered table. Commentaries and treatises written by Armand, censored edicts. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolled the first hour. Reynard stood, arms folded, eyes narrowed on a ragged map that was pinned to the table.
You speak of rot, Armand, of the cancer in the church. But fire alone is not cure. It must be shaped, contained.
Armand paced like a caged beast, his white vestments rustling with each step.
And what would you have me do, Renard? Preach temperance? Patience? While priests dine on the silver, consort with whores and lick the boots of lords and kings? We are choking on ritual, Renard, while the world sinks deeper into sin.
Reynard stepped forward, voice low and steady.
I agree. The judge is lost, but fire without form is mere destruction. You have lit the flame. Let me forge it into a blade.
Armand stopped. He looked at Reynard as if seeing him for the first time. Not the dutiful disciple, but something sharper, more dangerous.
You would lead them?
I would build.
Reynard corrected.
Disciples, yes, but also missionaries, judges, holy warriors, enacting the will of the gods. Let us not just condemn heresy, let us eradicate it.
Silence fell between them, like a tangible presence holding its breath. Then, softly, Armand spoke.
They will call us madmen, fanatics.
They already do.
And when they try to cast us out?
Reynard's eyes burned with conviction.
Then we burn our names into the stones they will cast us from.
Armand exhaled a laugh. Not mocking, but grim, and almost reverent. He stepped close, placing a weathered hand on Reynard's shoulder.
Then let it begin. Not as a sermon, but as a vow.
Together, they turned to the map, marking the first cities, the first cells, the first embers of change. And so the Brethren were born. Their allegiance was often secret, and those took positions wherever the church had reach, while the rest, led by Reynard, travelled from realm to realm. They preached that salvation could only be found through fire. They spoke of cleansing the world of sorcery, heresy, and sin. They declared that righteousness must be enforced, and that tolerance was the path to ruin. But, as Armand predicted, the Brethren's message fell mostly on deaf ears. To many they were little more than firebrands, fringe fanatics railing against a world in which they did not fit. The established church scoffed at them, and the nobility viewed them with wary contempt. When they burned a witch, it was not taken as a righteous act, but as grounds for censure, even exile. The institutions Reynard had once revered, he knew now were hollow, poisoned by comfort and cowardice. It was then that Reynard received a letter from one of the disciples, now steward to one of the great lords of Power and More. The missive spoke of his lord's ambition, and more crucially, his lack of guile. A man hungry for power, yet easily manipulated. The realm itself, the steward claimed, was fragile. A fractured nobility bickered, a populace steeped in stubborn paganism, and a church whose spiritual leader was a man of weak spine and weaker conviction. Reading the letter, Reynard saw opportunity laid out before him. Here, at last, was a door, unguarded and unbarred, waiting to be opened. He would step through it, not as a priest, but as a herald. A new dawn would rise, and Solon's pyre would burn brighter than the sun. It recently struck me that I had not explored what motivates Reynard. Yes, I know what he is trying to achieve, and he is clearly a religious extremist. But without some background, the context of what drives him, he could be seen as little more than a moustache-twirling villain, not something I would want for my game. Now, back in episode 44, we heard that Reynard had instructed Maelor to find the Eye of Selethra, which he had learned at Inis Gwyn was in the keeping of a mage called Lamorna, on an island known as Inis Nath. With the companions trying to find Demelza, there was no way that they could get to Inis Nath before Maelor, so off mic, I consulted the Oracle to find out what happened. Those rolls told me that Maelor failed to retrieve the Eye of Selethra because Lamorna escaped with it, but that he had captured her apprentice. Finally, the eagle-eared among you might recognise the name of Slethra's apprentice, Cirque. He is the brother of the ghost that Beric encountered at Kerodu, and to whom he promised to return Kerenza's brooch, in exchange for being shown the location of the enchanted sword, Callus Cleda. What happens next with regard to the Eye Slethra remains to be seen, but now I'm itching to get back to the companions and find out how they fare in Penmalkine. Chapter 60, Part 2, Day 61, Late Afternoon. Party status: Beric, 53 out of 53 hit points. Lena, 34 out of 34 hit points. Valen, 21 out of 21 hit points. Talion, 27 out of 27 hit points. Spells available: Valen has memorized Charm Animal, Push, Shield, Soothe, Revive, Clairvoyance, Ignite, and Dragon's Breath. Talion has memorized Resolve, Poetic Prose, Pitch, Imbue, and Lullaby. Lena can pray for 2 first-level miracles, 2 second-level miracles, 2 third-level miracles, 1 fourth-level miracle, and 1 fifth-level miracle. The moonstone cast an eerie sheen on the walls and floor of the chamber, as Valen thoughtfully closed the diary. The pale light shimmered like water on cold stone. It was clear to him now that Demelza had not come to Penmalkine merely to evade the Brethren. No, her purpose had been more deliberate, more decisive. As recorded in the apprentice's account, she had come to destroy the Eye of Krevik. But why now? He thought, after all these years of keeping it safe. He could only surmise that something had changed, some shift in the balance of the Hellstone's power. Perhaps Reynard had brought 2 or more of them together, knowingly or not. Who could say? What was clear is that Penmalkine had been built to hold something in check, to keep something from escaping into the world, and the thought of it filled him with dread.
There's nothing else here.
Beric's voice broke the stillness, snapping Valen from his thoughts. The silence that had settled over them for several minutes vanished in an instant.
Let's move on.
The warrior strode to the room's only other exit, and without pausing to listen, pushed the door open. Beric's shadow went ahead of him, as the light behind him spilled into the neighbouring chamber. The room was of a similar size and shape, and likely shared a purpose. Living quarters, perhaps. There was only one other exit that appeared to lead back to the entrance hall. 5 decaying beds were arranged evenly along the walls, their frames warped with age. Against the gloom, the shapes lying on them came slowly into focus. Mummified corpses, each half-shrouded in rotten linen, their shriveled, desiccated skins stretched tight over bone. Only one bed stood empty. Beric approached the nearest with caution. He had faced the restless dead enough to suspect that they would move at any moment, and it was only when they did not that he realised that he had been holding his breath. He peeled back the rotting sheet and saw the corpse was dressed in the remnants of some kind of robe. The once green fabric faded and threadbare. About its neck was a silver torque, not dulled as one might expect, but strangely still pristine. Oddly, it was worn backwards, the twisted metal resting against the throat like a seal. Perhaps intentional, perhaps not.
Valen,
he called in a hushed tone, as if not wishing to disturb the dead. The mage appeared at his side a moment later, drawn by the warrior's tone.
What make you of this?
The warrior asked, genuinely puzzled. Valen offered no immediate reply. Instead, he moved slowly from one corpse to the next, examining each in turn with careful, deliberate movements. At length, he returned to Beric.
There is no sign that these men met violent ends,
he said solemnly.
I cannot be sure, but I believe that these men died of starvation.
How awful, Lena said compassionately.
Yes,
the mage agreed.
Intentional or not, they were likely trapped in this place,
he added before continuing.
As for their garb, it appears to be ceremonial, each with a different colour. As for that,
he gestured to the torque encircling the corpse's neck.
I know not their significance, only that I sense some power in them. Who do you think they were?
Beric asked, the mystery beyond the warrior's comprehension.
Given what we know, if I were to hazard a guess, I would say that they were wardens, guardians, perhaps charged with watching over whatever lies beyond.
The companions agreed it would be best to leave the corpses undisturbed, and with nothing further to discover, they retraced their steps to the entrance hall. There, a pale shaft of light filtered in through the open portal, and the fresh breeze that blew in from outside was a welcome contrast to the stagnant, fetid air of the grim chamber. Though none spoke it aloud, each felt the same desire to leave this forsaken place and never look back. They could not leave though, not yet. They needed to be certain that the Eye of Krevik had been destroyed, and more pressing still, if Demelza possessed the knowledge to destroy the Hellstones, that secret had to be uncovered. They moved warily across the hall towards the first door on the opposite side, only to find it standing ajar, when they were certain it had been closed before. A quick glance between them confirmed that the same thought ran through all their minds. Lena suddenly froze. Her eyes went wide, fixed on something past Beric's shoulder. The colour drained from her face, rendering her ghostly in the moonstone's sheen. From the yawning darkness, a nightmare took form. An unspeakable thing, naked and cadaverous, its flesh the colour of ash. Its limbs were long, grotesquely thin, yet moved with a spidery grace that belied their fragile appearance. Each bony hand ended in long dagger-like claws, and its gaunt, emaciated head bore a maw lined with needle-like teeth, while its eyes, round, lidless orbs, were depthless and as black as the abyss.
Entering combat.
The companions have encountered a Helltaken, a mortal who at the point of death succumbs to corrupting demonic energy, which sustains them in a twisted half-life. This is a custom 7 hit dice creature, the remnant of the 5th Warden of Penmalkine. Helltaken have an ascending armor class of 13, and each round can make 2 claw attacks, dealing 1d6 points of damage, as well as a bite, dealing 1d4 points of damage. In addition, once per day, a Helltaken may use its Hellsight Gaze attack. The creature must first make a successful attack roll against the target's base armor class. This represents making eye contact. If successful, the target must save versus spells, or receive terrifying visions of hell. Such is the trauma of the experience, that the target's wisdom is permanently reduced by 1d3 points. This can only be reversed by the 3rd level homebrew miracle of Cure Mind. The target also loses its next turn as it recovers from the effect. Finally, Helltaken only receive half damage from mundane weapons. Silver and magical weapons damage normally, as does fire. You can find a full creature profile at legendofthebones.blogspot.com. Okay, time to roll the Helltaken's hit points. Rolling 7d8. That's 29, just above the half min out. Right then, let's get to it. Round 1. I'm going to rule that the Helltaken is not surprised, but will the party be? A roll of 1 or 2 on a d6 mean they are. A 1! Oh, that's bad luck. the Helltaken will get a free attack. I think it makes sense that it would initially use its gaze attack, rolling a d4 to see who will be targeted. A 2, that's Lena. With its attack bonus against Lena's base armor class, the Helltaken will need to roll a 4 or more. A 15. The cleric will need to roll a 9 or more to save. A 4. The creature locks gaze with the cleric. The depths of its black eyes reveal unspeakable visions of hell. Lena screams in terror, falling to the floor, clutching her head. The cleric will lose 1 point of wisdom. That could have been worse. Round 2. Initiative. The Helltaken. A 5. The party. A 4. The attack on Lena causes the companions to hesitate, and the Helltaken leaps forward with astonishing speed. It will attack Beric, rolling 3 d20s for 2 claws and a bite. It will need to roll 8 or more to hit. A 3, a 19 and a 10 for a total of just 2 points of damage. The warrior is turned away from the creature. It leaps onto Beric's back, scratching his head and grazing the soft flesh of his neck. Though not badly hurt, he cries out in surprise and alarm. Having been on the back foot, the companions must now shake themselves into action. I think Valen would instinctively run to Lena, who is whimpering on the floor, partly to try and help, and partly to protect her while she is incapacitated. Talion, though, will knock an arrow and shoot. With his dexterity bonus and the short range, the bard will need to roll an 8 or more. A 9! But remember, damage from mundane weapons is halved against this creature, meaning it takes 3 points of damage as the arrow strikes it in the back, causing it to release Beric. Beric himself rounds on the creature and attacks with his blade. The warrior will also need to roll an 8 or more to land a blow. An 11 for a total of 5 points of damage as the strike slashes the creature on its forearm. It hisses in pain and surprise. Round 3. Initiative. The Helltaken. A 1. The party. A 6. The companions press the initiative. Talia knocks another arrow and shoots. But with a 5, he cannot get a clear shot without hitting Beric. Having wounded the creature, Beric follows up with a fluid backhanded strike. But with a 5, the creature dodges back with surprising agility. Lena shakes her head and tries to banish the images from her mind, then charges forward with her warhammer. She will need a 12 to hit. A 6. The cleric is not focused, and her warhammer swipes impotently. Valen is not going to let Lena fight without him, despite having no protective enchantments to shield him. He rushes forward with his staff. The mage will need a 13 or more to hit. Another 5! The Helltaken is just too quick. Well, that was a terrible round for the party. Let's see who the creature will target for its next attack. It's Beric again, rolling 3 d20s. A 2, an 8 and a 6. One of its claws rakes across the warrior's thigh for 2 points of damage. Neither side seems to have the upper hand as we enter round 4. Initiative. The Helltaken. A 1. The party. A 3. Can Talion find an opening for a shot? An 18, yes! But for just 1 point of damage, as the arrow whips past the Helltaken's head, scratching its face. The companions haven't worked out that the creature has some resistance to mundane weapons, so it's imperative that Beric lands a blow with Callous Cledder. The warrior strikes out with the enchanted sword. A 17 is a hit for a total of 5 points of damage as the blade bites into the creature's thigh. Lena tries to regain her focus, swinging her warhammer overhead, hoping to crush the creature's skull. An 18 is a hit for just 2 points of damage. The Helltaken tries to dodge, and whilst the blow misses its head, it glances off its shoulder. Valen moves so that the Helltaken is now surrounded on 3 sides. He strikes out with his staff. An 18 is a hit for 1 point of damage as he jabs the creature in the stomach. The Helltaken is down to just 9 hit points, but given this creature is possessed, it has a morale of 12 and will fight to the death. This round it will target... It's Beric again. This makes sense. The creature can sense the magic weapon and fears the warrior the most. It launches itself again at the big man. A 7, a 6 and a 9 as it darts inside the warrior's defences and bites Beric on the right forearm for 3 points of damage. This is feeling like a war of attrition, but I think the party has the edge. With luck, and if they win the initiative, they might be able to finish the fight in Round 5. Initiative. The Helltaken. A 4. The party. A 2. That last attack on Beric was so quick that the party has lost their advantage as the warrior stumbles back. The Helltaken this round will target... It's Lena. It sees the holy symbol hanging about the cleric's neck and becomes enraged, lunging forward. A 17 and double nat 20s! This is unprecedented and is serious trouble for Lena. The monstrosity leaps on Lena, pushing her to the floor. She lets out a terrifying, anguished scream as claws stab into her shoulder, and the fiend tears into her throat with its needle-sharp teeth, for a total of 18 points of damage! Oh man, that's more than half the cleric's hit points in one attack. Brutal! Phelan cries out in alarm.
No!
Quick as a flash, Talion has knocked an arrow. A 1! As the bard pulls back, his bowstring snaps. Talion will miss his next turn as he restrings his bow. Beric charges forward, desperate to free Lena from the creature's deadly embrace. A 15 is hit for 9 points of damage. That's enough. The Helltaken, hearing Beric's approach, unlocks his jaws from Lena's neck. It raises its head, turning towards the warrior, just as Beric swings Callous Cledder. The blade connects with the creature's neck, cleaving its head in a fountain of black blood. The battle is over. Thank you for listening to Legend of the Bones. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you like what you've heard, then please consider rating and reviewing the show in your podcatcher of choice. Not only do I love seeing the feedback, but it really does help the show reach new listeners. As always, where would I be without my amazing cast of voice talent? A newcomer to the show, playing the role of Maylor, is Mike Burnett. Mike is the GM of the Billowing Hilltop podcast, a hilarious and wonderfully irreverent show that's definitely worth your time. Returning to the show, in the new role of Armand of Carasson, is Carl White, the creator of the superb Lone Adventurer podcast. If you like what I do here, then I thoroughly recommend checking it out. I'll put Mike and Carl's links in the show notes. You could also help by liking or reposting new episode announcements, or by recommending the show online or to a friend. You really can't beat the power of word of mouth. Alternatively, if you'd like to show your appreciation by buying me a metaphorical cup of tea, then I have a Ko-fi page at ko-fi.com/Legend of the Bones. Any donations will go towards the show's running costs. Finally, I'd love to know what you think of the show, and I do respond to every message I receive. So with that in mind, you can contact me on X at LegendBones, Blue Sky at LegendBones, Mastodon at LegendBones, at ttrpg-hangout.social, Instagram at legendofthebones, email at legendofthebones@gmail.com, or go to legendofthebones.blogspot.com for show notes, house rules, character profiles, art, maps and more. Join me next time to find out what awaits our adventurers as the bones decide their fate. None shall escape the destiny of bone.
We're going to give it another go. It's a bit more zing. A bit of zing. Zing. Yeah. Ready? Hello. With a hello. No. Hello. Wait till I get through the whole thing. Ready? Hello with a billowing hilltop.
Hello.
Oh dear. Wait till you get through the whole thing. No, I mean...
I thought that was the whole thing.
The whole thing is hello, we're the Billowing Hilltop. Okay, that's the whole thing. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
That was right.
That pretty much sums up the show. But if you want to find out any more, you can visit us at www.billowinghilltop. Is it com? Does anybody know?
.org.
Is it?
It's .com.
What do we do? What do we play?
There's monsters.
Does anybody remember?
Walking around.
I don't know.
And, yeah.
We will be delighted if you to join us around our table as we play Dungeons. Is it 5th edition? Hello?
Yeah, we think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. We
What
play
was that
Dungeons
noise
and Dragons.
in the background?
Sorry, that was me.
What was that noise in the background? There will be noises in the background as we play Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition through the classic Paizo adventure path, The Age of Worms. You can expect this. No! Quite a bit of this.
I'm completely lost.
This. This.
Got a bugbear in my underpants.
And one of these.
Oh dear.
We're on Apple Podcasts and we're on Spotify and we're on TuneIn, and you can find us on Twitter and you can find us on Facebook. And we hope you join us. Thanks very much.